Have you ever felt that, despite having everything in order in your outer life, something deep inside still feels incomplete? As if there's an invisible wound that no material achievement can heal. If so, you're not alone. Today we're going to delve into one of the most transformative concepts from Carl Jung, the brilliant Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst who revolutionized our understanding of the human mind. Jung discovered something fascinating. There's a direct connection between finding your life purpose and emotional healing. This isn't an abstract concept or a simple theory. It's a profound truth that can completely transform your existence. Think about it for a moment. How many times have you tried to fill that inner emptiness with relationships, possessions, or even professional achievements? Jung understood that these external solutions are temporary, like putting a bandage on a wound that needs air to heal. True emotional healing occurs when we reconnect with our deeper purpose, with what Jung called our personal myth. But before continuing, let me ask you a question. When was the last time you really stopped to listen to what your soul is asking of you? Not what society expects from you, not what you learned you should do, but what deeply resonates with your inner being. Today's world is designed to keep us distracted, to move us away from that inner voice trying to guide us toward our authentic purpose. We live bombarded by notifications, external demands, and others' expectations. And amid all that noise, we lose touch with our internal compass, with what Jung called the self, that deep essence that knows our true path. Jung dedicated much of his life to studying the process of individuation, a fascinating concept that describes how we become complete and unique beings. He discovered that this process isn't optional for achieving true emotional health. It's absolutely essential. When we ignore our purpose, when we disconnect from our personal myth, our unconscious finds ways to let us know. Do you find familiar the unexplained anxiety, episodes of sadness with no apparent cause, or that persistent feeling that something is missing in your life? Jung saw these as signs that we've strayed from our path, that we're ignoring fundamental aspects of who we really are. These aren't simple emotional nuisances. They're powerful messengers from our unconscious, trying to reconnect us with our purpose. One of Jung's most profound contributions was his understanding of the shadow, that part of ourselves we've repressed, denied, or abandoned. Many of our deepest emotional wounds are connected precisely with these rejected parts of our personality, and it's impossible to heal completely while we continue to deny fundamental aspects of who we are. Finding your purpose doesn't necessarily mean discovering a great mission that will change the world. Sometimes, it simply means allowing yourself to be who you really are, without masks or pretensions. Jung used the term persona to describe that social mask we all wear. And while that mask serves a function, living permanently behind it is one of the surest ways to generate deep emotional wounds. Remember when you were a child and had dreams and interests that naturally passionate you? Perhaps you loved drawing, or building things, or simply spending time in nature. Jung suggested that in these natural interests, in these spontaneous inclinations, lie valuable clues about our purpose. But over time, we learn to ignore them in favor of what seems practical or responsible. This disconnection from our natural interests isn't harmless. Jung observed that it generates what he called a neurosis, a psychic imbalance that eventually manifests as emotional symptoms. Anxiety, depression, and many other emotional disorders can be, in part, the result of this fundamental disconnection with our authentic self. Think about the decisions you've made in your life. How many of them arose from your inner truth? And how many were motivated by fear, social pressure, or the desire to meet imposed expectations? Jung invited us to reflect on this because he understood that decisions not born from our authenticity only create more chaos and internal suffering. One of Jung's most revolutionary ideas was his understanding of archetypes, those primordial images that inhabit our collective unconscious and shape our deepest experiences. One of these archetypes is the hero, representing our journey towards self-discovery and the realization of our purpose. Jung observed that we all have an inner heroic calling, an invitation to undertake this journey of self-knowledge. Resisting this call, out of fear or comfort, has an enormous emotional price. As Jung said, neurosis is always a substitute for legitimate suffering. That is, when we avoid the challenge of seeking and living our purpose, that pain doesn't disappear. It simply transforms into symptoms that can be even more difficult to bear. But how do we find this purpose? Jung offered us several powerful tools. One is to pay attention to our dreams, not just night dreams, though these are also important, but also our daydreams, those fantasies and images that spontaneously arise in our minds. Another invaluable tool is observing what deeply moves us. Jung noted that when something intensely affects us emotionally, whether positively or negatively, there's usually a connection to our purpose. These powerful emotional reactions are like signposts on the road, indicating important directions for our growth. Perhaps one of the most fascinating aspects of Jung's work is his concept of synchronicity, those seemingly casual but meaningful events that appear to guide us in certain directions. Have you noticed how, when you begin to follow your true path, coincidences appear that seem to confirm your decisions? Jung didn't see this as simple chance, but as a manifestation of the deep interconnection between our inner and outer worlds. When we begin to live aligned with our purpose, with our personal myth, we experience what Jung called synchronicity. It's as if the universe begins to conspire in our favor, presenting us with the people, situations, and opportunities we need to continue our path. This isn't magic or magical thinking, it's the reflection of a deep alignment between who we really are and how we live. It's important to understand that this path isn't free from challenges. In fact, Jung believed that obstacles and crises are essential parts of the individuation process. Each challenge we face gives us the opportunity to integrate previously unknown or rejected aspects of ourselves. Each crisis is an invitation to a deeper level of self-knowledge and authenticity. One of the most common emotional wounds in our society is what Jung described as the loss of soul. We feel that something vital has been lost, even though externally everything seems to be in order. This feeling of emptiness, of lack of meaning, is for Jung a clear sign that we've disconnected from our deeper purpose. Reconnecting with this purpose requires courage. It requires being willing to look beyond social expectations, family conditioning, and even our own limiting beliefs about what's possible. It requires a commitment to truth, even when that truth makes us uncomfortable or challenges what we thought we knew about ourselves. Jung observed that many people fear discovering their purpose because they intuitively sense it might demand significant changes in their life. And they're right. Living aligned with your deeper purpose often requires important transformations. But what Jung discovered is that the cost of not making these changes, of ignoring that inner call, is infinitely greater in terms of emotional suffering. Consider for a moment your relationships. Jung understood that our connections with others are powerful mirrors reflecting our inner state. When we live disconnected from our purpose, our relationships inevitably suffer. We attract people and situations that reflect that disconnection, that internal imbalance. Conversely, when we begin to honor our purpose, our relationships transform. We start to attract people who resonate with our authenticity, who support us on our growth path. And the most fascinating thing is that even our existing relationships begin to change, often in surprising and positive ways. One of Jung's most powerful concepts is that of the collective unconscious, that dimension of the psyche we share with all humanity. Within this collective unconscious dwell the archetypes, those primordial images that shape our deepest experiences. Connecting with our purpose means, in a sense, aligning ourselves with the archetypal forces operating through us. This is a crucial point. Your purpose isn't something you create or invent. It's something you discover, that you recognize. It's already there, waiting for you to listen to it. And when we begin to listen, when we pay attention to those whispers of the soul, we experience a sense of recognition, as if we had finally found something we had always been searching for. Jung spoke of the importance of listening to our unconscious, of paying attention to the messages it sends us through dreams, intuitions, synchronicities, and emotional reactions. These messages aren't arbitrary. They are attempts by our deeper self to guide us toward our path of integrity and fullness. One of the most powerful tools Jung offered us for this process is active imagination, a form of conscious dialogue with the images and symbols of our unconscious. Through this practice, we can establish direct communication with those parts of ourselves that know our purpose, that understand the path we must follow to heal. And what happens when we begin this dialogue, when we really start to listen? Jung observed that we experience what he called enantiodromia, a process through which previously opposing aspects of our personality begin to integrate. The parts of us that seem to be in conflict start to collaborate, creating a new and more complete synthesis. This integration is the essence of emotional healing according to Jung. It's not about eliminating parts of ourselves that we consider undesirable, but integrating them into a more complete and harmonious whole. It's recognizing that every aspect of our personality, even those that are uncomfortable or difficult for us, has a role in our integral development. As we advance on this path of individuation, in this process of reconnecting with our purpose, something extraordinary happens. The emotional wounds that seem to resist all healing begin to transform, not because we've fixed them directly, but because we've addressed their root cause, the disconnection from our authentic being. Jung observed that many of our deepest emotional wounds are related to what he called the betrayal of the self. Every time we ignore our purpose, every time we choose security or approval over our truth, we are, in a sense, betraying ourselves. And that betrayal leaves emotional scars. But here's the good news: it's never too late to change direction. Jung worked with people of all ages and discovered that the process of individuation, of reconnecting with our purpose, can begin at any point in life. No matter how long you've lived, disconnected from your truth, the way back is always open. This is a powerful message of hope. It means that even the oldest and deepest emotional wounds can heal when we commit to our inner journey. When we stop looking for solutions exclusively in the external world and begin to listen to the wisdom that dwells within us. One of the most common obstacles on this path is fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of rejection, fear of failure. Jung understood these fears as manifestations of our resistance to growth, to transformation. They are a natural part of the process, signs that we are on the threshold of something significant. To overcome these fears, Jung invited us to develop a quality he called the will to meaning. This isn't a will imposed from the ego, but a deep openness to discover and live the unique meaning of our existence. It's the willingness to venture into the unknown, trusting in the wisdom of our deeper being. Here's a powerful truth that Jung understood. Your purpose isn't something external to you, something you must achieve or accomplish. It's the natural expression of who you really are, of your most authentic essence. When you live aligned with this purpose, you're not striving to be someone different. You're allowing yourself to be who you truly are. This is perhaps the most beautiful paradox of Jung's work. Discovering and living our purpose doesn't require us to become someone else. It requires us to stop trying to be who we're not. It requires us to abandon the masks, pretensions, and defenses we've built to allow our essential nature to emerge. As you allow yourself to be more authentic, you'll notice significant changes in your emotional life. Emotions that previously seemed overwhelming begin to transform. Not because you've suppressed or controlled them, but because they've found their proper place in the whole of your being. They've been integrated into a more complete and harmonious totality. Jung observed that many of our emotional disturbances arise from what he called the inflation of the ego. This occurs when our ego, our conscious identity, identifies either with aspects too elevated or too degraded of our being. When we believe ourselves to be more important or less valuable than we really are, we experience emotional imbalances. Connecting with our purpose helps us find the right balance. It allows us to recognize both our limitations and our extraordinary capabilities. It helps us see our place in the grand scheme of things, neither superior nor inferior, but exactly where we need to be. This balance is fundamental to emotional health. Jung understood that both arrogance and self-degradation are symptoms of an unbalanced relationship with ourselves. Both reflect a disconnection from our authentic being, from our deeper purpose. A question that naturally arises is, how do I know what my purpose is? Jung didn't believe that purpose could be reduced to a simple formula or definition. For him, purpose is something that reveals itself gradually as we commit to our inner journey. However, he offered us some valuable clues. He observed that our purpose is often connected with what makes us lose track of time, with activities that give us a sense of fullness and meaning. He also noted that it's often related to our deepest wounds, to those aspects of our experience that have caused us the greatest suffering. This last point is particularly significant. Jung believed in what we might call the transformation of suffering. He observed that many people discover their purpose precisely through their most painful experiences, not because suffering is necessary in itself, but because it often forces us to seek deeper meaning, to question our assumptions, and to open ourselves to new possibilities. Think about your own emotional wounds. What have they taught you? How have they transformed you? What understandings or abilities have you developed through them? Jung would suggest that in these questions you might find important clues about your purpose. Another revealing sign of your purpose is what Jung called the emotionally charged complex. He observed that those themes or situations that provoke disproportionate emotional reactions in us are often connected with important aspects of our personal destiny. Our passions, obsessions, and even our emotional triggers are like signposts on the road, pointing toward significant areas of our journey. Jung also understood that our purpose isn't static. It evolves throughout our life. What gives us meaning in our youth may transform as we mature. Part of wisdom is recognizing these transitions and allowing ourselves to rediscover our purpose in each new stage of life. One of Jung's most profound contributions was his understanding of the second half of life. He observed that around middle age, many people experience a significant crisis. This isn't simply a crisis of identity or achievement, it's what he called the crisis of meaning. It's a deep call to rediscover our purpose at a deeper level. Jung believed that the first half of life is naturally oriented toward the external world, establishing ourselves professionally, forming a family, achieving social recognition. But in the second half, our focus needs to become more internal. It's time to ask ourselves not just what we've accomplished, but who we really are and what meaning our existence has. Ignoring this call to interiority, to reconnection with our purpose at a deeper level, can result in what Jung called the midlife neurosis. This manifests as a sense of emptiness, of lack of meaning, despite external achievements. It's the soul reminding us that there's more to life than the goals and ambitions of the ego. This is a crucial point. According to Jung, true emotional health in the second half of life requires a conscious commitment to our spiritual development, not necessarily in a traditional religious sense, but as a deep exploration of the meaning and purpose of our existence. Part of this process involves what Jung called the realization of the shadow. It's recognizing and accepting those aspects of ourselves that we've denied, repressed, or projected onto others. It's challenging work, but essential for psychic integrity and emotional health. Jung observed that many of our most intense projections, those strong judgments we make about others, are actually rejected aspects of ourselves that we haven't wanted or been able to recognize. Integrating these aspects, making them conscious, is a fundamental part of the individuation process. Have you noticed how certain people or behaviors provoke intense emotional reactions in you, seemingly disproportionate ones? Jung would suggest you pay attention to these reactions. They often point to aspects of your own shadow, parts of yourself you've rejected and now recognize, unconsciously, in others. Shadow work is essential for emotional healing, because it allows us to recover psychic energy that we've spent keeping certain aspects of ourselves out of consciousness. When we integrate our shadow, we experience a significant increase in vitality and authenticity. Another fundamental concept in Jung's work is that of anima and animus, the images of the opposite sex that each of us carries within. Jung believed that to achieve psychic wholeness, men need to integrate their anima, the feminine aspects of their psyche, and women their animus, the masculine aspects. This integration is crucial for emotional health and for our ability to form authentic and deep relationships. When we don't recognize these internal aspects, we tend to project them onto other people, which complicates our relationships and prevents us from truly connecting. Connecting with our purpose involves, in part, integrating these complementary aspects of our psyche. It means recognizing and honoring both our masculine qualities, such as logic, assertiveness, independence, and our feminine qualities, such as intuition, receptivity, connection. It's important to understand that Jung didn't see these qualities as inherently tied to biological gender. They are aspects of the human psyche that we all possess in different proportions. The key to emotional health is allowing these complementary energies to collaborate in harmony, rather than repressing or denying any of them. As we advance in this process of integration, on this path of reconnection with our purpose, we experience what Jung called the transcendent function. This is the capacity of the psyche to create a synthesis between seemingly opposite aspects of ourselves, generating a higher level of consciousness and functioning. This transcendent function operates naturally when we allow ourselves to fully experience the tensions and paradoxes of our existence, without rushing to resolve them prematurely. Jung observed that when we bear these tensions with awareness, a creative solution eventually emerges that transcends the apparent opposition. Think of a situation in your life where you felt an important internal tension or conflict. Perhaps part of you wanted to follow one path, while another part wanted something completely different. Jung would suggest that, instead of suppressing one of these impulses in favor of the other, you allow both to exist in your consciousness. In that tense but conscious coexistence lies the seed of a higher synthesis, of a solution that honors both aspects of your being. This capacity to sustain and transcend internal contradictions is fundamental to emotional healing. It allows us to overcome the psychic fragmentation that is at the root of many emotional disorders. It helps us recover our wholeness, our integrity as human beings. Jung understood that the ultimate purpose of human life is what he called individuation, the process of becoming complete, integrated, and unique individuals, not copies of others, not standard products of our culture, but authentic and singular expressions of human possibilities. This process of individuation is inseparable from our emotional healing. In fact, we could say that true emotional healing isn't simply the absence of symptoms or discomfort, but the presence of this integrated wholeness, of this deep connection with our essential purpose. And what happens when we advance on this path? Jung observed that we experience a profound transformation in our relationship with suffering. Pain doesn't disappear from our life, but its meaning fundamentally changes. It's no longer simply something to avoid, but an integral aspect of our growth and development. This transformation is perhaps one of the most precious gifts of Jung's work. It offers us a way to relate to our emotional wounds not as defects or failures, but as portals to a deeper understanding of ourselves and our shared humanity. As we connect more deeply with our purpose, we also experience significant changes in our relationship with others. Jung observed that true individuation doesn't isolate us, but connects us more authentically with the human community. Paradoxically, it's by becoming more fully ourselves that we can relate more genuinely with others. This is a crucial understanding. Individual and collective purpose aren't in opposition. By discovering and living our unique purpose, we contribute exactly what the world needs from us. Our personal healing and collective healing are inextricably intertwined. Jung believed that each of us has a unique and irreplaceable contribution to make to the whole. When we disconnect from our purpose, we not only harm ourselves, but we deprive the world of something essential. Conversely, when we live aligned with our purpose, we naturally serve the greater good without sacrificing our individuality. Are you ready to take the first steps on this journey of reconnection with your purpose? Jung suggested starting with what he called taking your reactions seriously. Pay attention to what moves you, what angers you, what inspires you. These emotional responses are like compasses pointing toward significant aspects of your path. Another powerful practice is what Jung called the inner dialogue. Take time regularly to write or reflect on the fundamental questions of your life. Don't look for immediate or formulaic answers. Allow them to gradually emerge from within as you cultivate a deeper relationship with yourself. Jung also greatly valued dreams as windows to our unconscious. Consider keeping a dream journal, noting what you remember upon waking, without rushing to interpret them. Over time, patterns and themes will begin to emerge, offering you valuable clues about your path. It's important to remember that this journey isn't linear. As Jung observed, the path to psychic wholeness is paved with fragments. There will be moments of clarity and moments of confusion, periods of rapid progress, and periods where it seems you're not advancing. All of this is part of the process. The key is to maintain an open and compassionate curiosity toward yourself and your experience. Jung emphasized the importance of what he called the loving gaze toward all parts of oneself, even those that are difficult or uncomfortable for us. Remember that you're not alone on this path. Although each person's journey is unique, we all share this fundamental search for meaning and purpose. Jung himself dedicated his life to mapping this territory, to providing tools and understandings that could help us on our own journey. If this message resonates with you, if you feel that inner call to reconnect with your purpose, consider this an important sign. It's not coincidence that you're hearing these words at this moment in your life. As Jung often pointed out, our psyche has an extraordinary wisdom that guides us exactly to what we need when we're ready to receive it. Now I want you to reflect for a moment. What would be possible in your life if you truly believed in your purpose? Not as an abstract idea, but as a lived truth. How would your relationship with yourself, with others, with the world change? What emotional wounds might finally begin to heal when you allow yourself to be who you really are? The gift that Jung left us isn't simply a set of theories or techniques. It's an invitation to a journey of self-discovery that can fundamentally transform our experience of being alive. It's a path that takes us from fragmentation to wholeness, from unconscious suffering to a conscious engagement with the mystery and beauty of our existence. This is a message of profound hope. No matter how disconnected you may feel now from your purpose, no matter how deep your emotional wounds, the path back home is always open. Jung understood that true healing begins when we dare to believe that our purpose is real and meaningful. Jung taught us that belief in our purpose isn't naive fantasy, but a fundamental psychological necessity. When we doubt our unique value, when we deny our special purpose, we create an internal division that generates emotional suffering. This division is what Jung called neurosis, a fragmentation of the psyche that occurs when we live in contradiction with our essential nature. Think about those moments in your life when you felt most alive, most present, most complete. Those moments aren't accidental. They're glimpses of what it means to be aligned with your purpose. Jung discovered that these experiences of wholeness, which he called numinous, are important signals on our path of individuation. The tragedy is that many of us dismiss these experiences as irrelevant or impractical. I can't make a living doing that, we tell ourselves. It's not realistic. What would others think? Jung understood that these doubts aren't simply thoughts. They're manifestations of what he called the power complex, that part of our psyche that prioritizes safety and approval over authenticity. One of Jung's most profound observations was that we cannot heal emotionally while continuing to betray our purpose. Each time we ignore that inner call, each time we choose the safe over the authentic, We create more internal division, more suffering. It's like trying to heal a wound while continuing to open the same wound over and over again. What if the secret to true emotional healing were much simpler than we think? What if, as Jung suggested, much of our suffering comes not from what has happened to us, but from what we haven't allowed ourselves to be? This is a revolutionary perspective. It means that, regardless of our circumstances or history, we have the power to initiate our healing by reconnecting with our essential purpose. Jung observed something fascinating in his long career as a therapist. People who dared to believe in their purpose, who committed to their individuation process despite fears and doubts, experienced a profound transformation in their emotional health. Not because their problems magically disappeared, but because their relationship with those problems fundamentally changed. This is crucial. Emotional health, according to Jung, isn't the absence of challenges or suffering. It's the ability to relate to our experience from a place of wholeness and meaning. When we believe in our purpose, even our deepest wounds can become sources of wisdom and growth. As Jung himself said, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." Perhaps you wonder, how can I believe in my purpose when I'm not even sure what it is? Jung understood this doubt. He suggested that purpose isn't something we discover once and for all, but something that gradually reveals itself as we commit to our inner journey. You don't need complete clarity to take the first step. You only need to be willing to listen, to pay attention, to follow those subtle signals your soul sends you. Jung also reminded us that our purpose is often connected with our deepest wounds. There's a wisdom in this. The areas where we've experienced the greatest suffering are precisely those where we have the potential to develop greater understanding and compassion. Many healers, artists, and transformative leaders have found their purpose precisely through their own wounds. Think of it as psychological alchemy. Jung was fascinated by ancient alchemy, not as a literal quest to transform metals into gold, but as a metaphor for inner transformation. He saw that our emotional wounds, our base metals, can transform into gold when we approach them through the lens of our purpose. What would happen if you began to look at your wounds not as obstacles in your path, but as signs pointing toward your purpose? What if that anxiety you feel weren't simply a problem to solve, but a message from your soul indicating that something important needs your attention? Jung invites us to this revolutionary way of relating to our emotional suffering. One of Jung's most transformative concepts is that of the wounded healer. He observed that those who have faced and worked with their own wounds develop a unique capacity to facilitate healing in others. Not because they've completely eliminated their suffering, but because they've learned to relate to it in a conscious and meaningful way. They've transformed their wounds into wisdom. This is perhaps one of the most hopeful aspects of Jung's work. It suggests that our most painful experiences, when integrated through the individuation process, can become our most valuable contributions to the world. Our scars become maps that can guide others on their own healing path. But this process requires us to truly believe in our purpose, to trust that there's a deeper meaning in our experience. Jung understood that this belief isn't simply positive thinking or an empty affirmation. It's a deep commitment to our inner truth, to that voice that, despite our doubts and fears, continues to whisper to us that there's something important we must do, someone important we must be. Jung observed that those who consistently ignore this inner call eventually experience what he described as the neurosis of lost meaning. This condition manifests as a deep sense of emptiness, of lack of purpose, that no external achievement or passing pleasure can completely fill. It's the soul reminding us that we've come to this world for a reason, and that no distraction or substitute can satisfy that fundamental need for meaning. The good news is that this neurosis of lost meaning is itself an invitation to awaken. Jung saw psychological symptoms not as problems to eliminate, but as messengers trying to guide us toward greater awareness and authenticity. When we pay attention to that inner emptiness, when we stop fleeing from it through distractions or addictions, we begin the journey back to our purpose. How can we cultivate this belief in our purpose? Jung suggested several powerful practices. One is conscious attention to our dreams. Not just night dreams, though these are also important, but also our daydreams. Those visions, yearnings, and aspirations that emerge spontaneously when we allow our mind to wander freely. Another essential practice is what Jung called the active confrontation with the unconscious. This involves creating regular spaces in our life for deep reflection, meditation, writing, or any activity that allows us to access the deeper levels of our psyche. It's in these spaces where we often receive the clearest signals about our purpose. Jung also greatly valued the power of personal symbols and rituals. He observed that these can serve as bridges between our conscious mind and the depths of our unconscious. Creating or adopting symbols that represent your search for purpose, establishing small rituals that connect you with your deepest intention. These practices can significantly strengthen your belief in your unique path. Perhaps the most important practice is simply paying attention. Jung invited us to carefully observe where our energy feels naturally drawn, what activities or topics make us lose track of time, what conversations or ideas awaken genuine enthusiasm in us. These aren't superficial preferences. They're important signs of our purpose. As we begin to follow these signs, we often face what Jung called the threshold guardian. This is the point in our journey where we encounter significant resistance, both internal and external. Intense doubts, fears, or even objections from people close to us may arise. Jung understood this threshold not as a sign that we're on the wrong path, but as an indication that we're approaching something truly important. Crossing this threshold requires courage. It requires what Jung called the sacrifice of the ego, the willingness to let go of our preconceived ideas about who we are and what we can do. It requires a leap of faith, not in something external, but in the wisdom of our deeper being, in that purpose that has been guiding us, often silently, throughout our life. It's at this point where many people turn back. The fear of change, of the unknown, can seem overwhelming. But Jung observed something fascinating. Those who find the courage to move forward, to cross that threshold despite the fear, invariably discover internal resources they didn't know they possessed. As if the very act of committing to our purpose released new and powerful energies within us. This is a profound truth that Jung discovered. Our purpose isn't simply something we do, it's a source of psychic energy. When we live aligned with it, we experience what he called libido, not in the strictly sexual sense, but as a vital force that animates and energizes everything we do. This energy is what makes true emotional healing possible. Think of moments in your life when you felt this energy, this sensation of being completely alive and present. Perhaps while creating something, helping someone, or simply being totally immersed in an activity that passions you. Jung would suggest that these moments are glimpses of what it means to live aligned with your purpose, and that emotional healing involves, in part, organizing your life to experience more of these moments. But Jung also understood that purpose doesn't always manifest as passion or enthusiasm. Sometimes it presents itself as a deep sense of duty or necessity. This is what I must do, even if it's difficult. This understanding is important, especially in a culture that often equates purpose with passion or immediate happiness. Jung saw that sometimes our purpose calls us to face challenges, to do difficult work, precisely because that work is necessary for our evolution and for the greater good. What makes this difficult work sustainable, what distinguishes it from simple suffering or sacrifice, is the meaning we find in it. As Viktor Frankl, strongly influenced by Jung, said, "Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how." When we truly believe in our purpose, we can face difficulties that would otherwise seem insurmountable. It's this ability to find meaning even in suffering that distinguishes Jung's vision of emotional healing from more superficial approaches. It's not simply about feeling better or eliminating uncomfortable symptoms. It's about a fundamental transformation in our relationship with our entire experience, including our struggles and challenges. One of Jung's most profound contributions to our understanding of emotional healing is his concept of the self with a capital S. Unlike the ego, which is our conscious identity, the self represents the totality of our psyche, including both the conscious and the unconscious. Jung saw the self as the organizing center of the total personality and as the ultimate source of our purpose. Connecting with this self isn't simply an abstract spiritual experience. It has profound practical implications for our emotional health. Jung observed that those who manage to establish a conscious relationship with their self experience a significant change in their relationship with life's ups and downs. They develop what he called personality, not in the everyday sense of the word, but as an inner solidity, a coherence that persists even amid life's storms. This personality, this connection with our center, is perhaps the most precious gift that Jung's work offers us. It shows us that true emotional healing doesn't consist in avoiding suffering or manipulating our mental states, but in developing a conscious relationship with the totality of our psyche. And at the heart of this totality is our unique purpose, that personal myth that gives meaning and direction to our life. When you live from this center, something extraordinary happens. The emotional wounds that previously seemed to define you begin to transform. They don't magically disappear, but they no longer have the same power over you. They become integrated parts of your story, sources of wisdom and compassion, instead of obstacles or limitations. This is the psychological alchemy that Jung spoke of, the transformation of our wounds into gold. Not through their denial or suppression, but through their conscious integration in the broader context of our purpose and meaning. It's a process that requires courage, patience, and commitment, but whose fruits are incomparably valuable. Imagine for a moment how your life would be if you could relate to your emotional wounds from this place of wholeness and purpose. How would your experience of anxiety, sadness, or even anger change if you could see them not as enemies to combat, but as messengers trying to guide you toward greater awareness and authenticity? Jung invites us to this revolutionary way of relating to our emotional experience, not as passive victims of our mental states, but as active participants in the great drama of our psychological and spiritual evolution. And at the center of this drama is our decision to believe in our purpose, to trust that our life has a unique meaning that only we can discover and manifest. If there's one message that Jung would want us to remember, it's this: your purpose is real. It's not a fantasy or a luxury. It's the path to your psychic wholeness, to your deepest emotional health. And the first step on this path is simply to believe in its reality, to trust that inner voice that, despite all doubts and fears, continues to whisper that there's something important you must do, someone important you must be. This is Jung's gift to all of us, the understanding that our emotional healing and our purpose aren't two separate paths, but aspects of a single journey. The journey toward what he called individuation, becoming the unique, complete, and integrated individuals we have the potential to be. And now I want to ask you, are you ready to take the first step on this journey? Are you willing to believe in your purpose, even before having total clarity about it? Can you trust that inner wisdom that has been guiding you, often silently, throughout your life? Remember that you don't need to have all the answers. As Jung said, the meaning of life is not to have answers, but to live the questions. Purpose reveals itself gradually as we advance on the path, as we commit to this journey of self-discovery and self-realization. What matters is taking the first step, allowing yourself to believe that your life has a unique meaning, that your wounds and challenges aren't simply obstacles, but portals to a deeper awakening. This act of faith in yourself, in your purpose, can be the most powerful catalyst for your emotional healing. If this message has resonated with you, if you feel that inner call to explore more deeply your purpose and its connection to your emotional healing, consider it an important sign. It's no coincidence that you're hearing these words at this moment in your life. As Jung often pointed out, there's an intelligence in our unconscious that guides us exactly to what we need when we're ready to receive it. I invite you to take this message beyond this video. Reflect on it. Write about it. Share it with people who might benefit from this perspective. But most importantly, allow yourself to experience it in your own life. Take small steps each day to reconnect with your purpose, to listen to that inner voice that knows your true path. If this message has touched something in you, let me know in the comments which part resonated most strongly. Share your thoughts, your questions, your own experiences with this journey of reconnecting with your purpose. And if you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, do so now and activate notifications to receive more content that can support you on your path of self-discovery and healing. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. Millions of people around the world are awakening to this same understanding, are responding to this same call to live with greater purpose and authenticity. Together, we're participating in what Jung would describe as a collective evolution of human consciousness. Thank you for being here, for your openness and willingness to explore these transformative ideas. Remember Jung's words. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. It's time to awaken to the reality of your purpose, to the possibility of deep and lasting emotional healing. It's time to believe in the importance of your unique journey, in the special contribution that only you can make. The world needs people who have awakened to their purpose, who have found the courage to believe in their unique path. The world needs you, in all your authenticity and wholeness. And the first step is simply to believe that it's possible.